Zodiac Files Live Edition, episode 14, I believe it is. Can't see the title on my own episode. We will be discussing Zodiac's media influence on the correspondence today, and I will be having my guests, Dion Walker and Craig, and we'll be doing a deep dive, usual format. You guys know how it goes. Really not too much channel news to announce other than Holly Toshke making her reappearance for her second episode next weekend, episode 15, volume 15. So we'll have that posted once we get the time scheduled for that. But without further ado, we're going to bring in our today's guests, Dion Walker and Craig. Oops, I messed that up. Dion Walker and Craig. Welcome, boys. The most professional show in the world. Planet X Film.
Hey, lads.
How we doing?
Great. Glad to have you guys on the show. Been talking about this one behind the scenes for a while, trying to get you guys booked, and definitely pumped to these guys are both friends of the channel. Do a lot of behind the scenes research here. So, introduce yourselves, where people can find your stuff, if you guys care to.
Excuse me. You first, Craig?
Okay. My name's Craig. I'm from the UK. People probably know me as Craggle on the forums. Something that Richard, I think, nominated me for. So I'm thankful to him.
Yep. He's got the Richard Grinnell co-sign. So I consider Craig of the Richard Grinnell school of thought, because you guys deep dive the newspapers, the media, the correspondence. We all know that's heavily featured on Zodiac Ciphers. And of course, Dion, you're all over the place. You've got the One Killer Theory essay, and you've been researching for years.
Yeah, finger in, excuse me, guys, finger in many pies. I'm Dion. I'm from New Zealand. We're out here in the Southwest Pacific. So it's early in the morning here for me. I mainly stick to a couple of Facebook groups there and just here and there, and working with the ZAP, which is our offline project. And yeah, that's it. I dabble in the Zodiac case for a few years now, and this is my first time on camera in front of a few people. So howdy. We'll see how it goes.
No, Dion's amazing. I can add that I came into contact with his work through the Sherry Joe Bates group when I did my Zodiac Files episode 3 on the Sherry Joe Bates mystery. And, we've all done, our part on that case. And, definitely, I think, I would say the majority of us at this point, are probably leaning to Sherry not being, Zodiac activity, despite the written confession letter, despite Zodiac later saying, that's my Riverside activity. Anyway, that's a point that can be, returned to later and debated on. But I would say that, the Zodiac community on the whole has been slowly moving away from that one. If you guys care to, we can discuss the Riverside PD announcement later on in the show of the Bates had to die letters and the, extremely convoluted, bad description they gave in that press release. So I never met anyone that can explain that clearly. But anyway, that's a point for later on if we have time.
What do you expect for RPD?
It's never RPD. They're not known for their unambiguous press releases or information
clarity
in general.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agree. But
I don't like to mock law enforcement, but yeah, sorry, RPD have kind of not been all that helpful.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree with that. And again, law enforcement thing is what it is. I mean, I think per Drew Beeson, when during the DNA testing, wasn't the SFPD lab, I think, rated last in the country for solving crimes. So that's not, I don't really think that's our criticism. That's more of just fact. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not our favorite thing, but that's welcome to the Zodiac case. So anyway, shout out to these guys. Been talking to them behind the scenes for a long time. And of course, we're all on Tap Talk if anyone cares to engage there on the Zodiac forum where most of the discussions happen. However you guys want to begin. I know Craig has some of his talking points about the media. If you want to just jump in on the articles, or unless you have some other starting point, just let us know, gents.
No, we can go for it.
Let's do it.
Go for it. So, the first letter he sends, there's not a lot there to it when you actually look at it. He sends a cipher. And obviously the letter's there to prove that he's the person who's done it. Well, so we think.
So he says.
Exactly, yeah. So straight away from the off, you can see that he's trying to prove his involvement all the time. He makes a phone call, he sends the letter, he's listing a load of facts in there. But what I find interesting is with that 408, he sends it to 3 different papers. So straight away, he's going for maximum exposure.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to get as much, front page coverage as he can. Yep. Straight from the off, he's doing it. So what happens is that was only in the paper, Blue Rock Springs, for about a week, and he disappeared out the papers. So he then sent the 408 to try and renew people's interest in the case, and that's when he starts to get all these headlines in the papers with the code. So he's getting this exposure now. He's getting what he wants. He's getting in the papers. So he sends the debut letter. What was it? Four days later, in response to Stilts asking for more details. But what I find funny is he ignores the threats of Friday the 1st. He sort of skates over that. He doesn't. Don't mention it. Just completely ignores it.
Yep.
But he says, when they crack the code, they'll have me. Which we know is complete and utter
nonsense.
It's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. But one thing I do find interesting is that he used that no address at the bottom. On the bottom of the debut letter. Now, in one of the first articles about Blue Rock Springs, Michael McGough his address is stated as no address. So is he hinting, again, is that another little piece of proof he's trying to throw in there? Because obviously he's reading the papers. He's keeping track on what's going on. So is he sort of hinting? And I think he carries on little games like that all the way through.
Yeah.
He just carries on doing it. So on the 9th of August, the 408's, it comes out, the news is there that the 408's been solved. And he's shown for what he is. A complete bullshitter, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
He says his identity's in there. It's not. When they crack it, they'll have me. It's not. He made errors in encryptions.
Yep.
But the worst part was, on that day, news of the Tate murders started. They started appearing in that paper.
Right on the front page, too.
A nightmare for Zodiac.
Exactly. It starts knocking off the front page. Yeah.
I think the hardened solution was on about page 29 or something like that in one of the editions.
Interesting.
Some front page coverage for you, wasn't it, mate? Yeah.
That must have hit him hard. His ego. That must have bothered him. Bothered him.
Oh yeah.
And then the next day, the Snoozy Furlong murders hit in the papers. They start to hit on the back of the Tate murders. That's 2 days in a row. We've got murders that were stabbings. So what happens? The concerned citizen card sent. Somebody sends that concerned citizen card, which is a direct response to a newspaper article again. There was a newspaper article where I've got it here, where it specifically says Stilts asks for help from people who, it says, police are planning to get Navy cryptographer expert to examine the cipher, similar to those worked by puzzle fans.
Yep.
Which is, it's virtually paraphrasing. The concerned citizen card is virtually paraphrasing that article.
And can I just say here, one thing we know about Zodiac, he is going off previous newspaper articles, isn't he, when he's referencing these things? So it's very much a Zodiac-like trait to do that.
Yeah.
So
and also it's. Go on, sorry, Ross.
I was just going to say real quick, and I don't know if you're coming to this already. Concerned citizen card, concerned citizen or Zodiac? The concerned citizen letter.
Personally, I think it's Zodiac.
That's what I was leaning towards.
I think because I think the main point of that card was to address some of the errors made in that cipher.
Yep.
To make him look less of a fool.
Yeah, I agree.
Basically, that's the only reason I can see.
He was all about
playing catch up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just want to say too, that was another thing he was very passionate about, was not making himself look like a pork chop. He always went to great extremes to try and make himself out to look like the man, the criminal genius, and everyone else to look like the flogs.
Yeah. He tries to look, quite intelligent, but then he can't spell simple words. He's obviously.
I mean,
playing.
Since you brought that up, people have a million theories on what that is. The misspellings are a code within themselves. We've all heard that one. He's masking his actual intelligence. What is your take on that? Because obviously, later on in the Badlands letter, we're spelling sensibilities and responsibility and all these 8-syllable words properly, but clues and quite simple words.
Kid, you can't spell kid.
Victim. The word victim's in the newspaper every friggin' day.
Right, he spells it. Does he spell it multiple ways?
He wrote the word victim 3 times throughout his authentic, in the authentic letters, and every time it was VICTOM. The word victim, like Zodiac claims 5th victim, you can't spell it properly from there, mate. So that should say straight away what the deal is with the misspellings. And then paradise. The only time he spells it wrong is in the ciphers, where it's hidden away. It just sort of makes sense to me, but yeah.
He's almost spelling them phonetically.
Yeah.
That's what, it seems like to me, paradise.
Yeah.
How, it's the phonetic spelling of it, not the actual, if I've got the term right, that is. But,
I mean, you guys...
the way it looks, yeah.
Yeah. The way it sounds right, yeah.
Dion, you're obviously a Kiwi. Craig, you're obviously British. We've all heard the Anglophile angle. Does that give you guys, of course, the voice to Slover, Slate, Hartnell, no accent. People have gone off for the Canadian origin, just throwing random theories out there. Does that give you guys anything in terms of dialect or diction? I mean, he clearly seems to be an American, but, people have taken it in every direction,
Sorry, well, one thing I will say, after World War II, a lot of European widowed ladies with their children were displaced, and a lot of them came over to the United States at that stage. So it's not out of this world that Zodiac could have been born somewhere else and was displaced somewhere for whatever reasons and grew up in America, but not, you know what I mean? Just as an example of how it might have come around. Yeah.
Yep.
No, I can't see it. I
just fast writing or what? Like what? Where do you? Because I have you guys seen what is Stefan's breakdown of the Exorcist card with the satirical comedy? I mean, he blatantly swapped the letters in that one. Yeah. The police at one time floated the he's writing on what was it, speed or alcohol, or so there's the substance theory. Do you just chalk it up to like fast writing, Craig, or would it or is he just that much of an ignoramus that, hey, this word is right and then all these ones are wrong, and I'm not saying we know the answer. What do you think?
Personally, I think that probably was his real writing.
Okay.
That's how he wrote.
That's kind of how I mean.
I think when you actually look at the misspellings, you can see that the gaps in the letters are not right. As if it's been done on purpose. To enable him to then spell it incorrectly. But you just
Craig
you don't know, do you? Sorry. Go on, mate.
I was just going to mention in passing. Craig and I actually did study a little bit of that a couple of years ago with a lot of the spacing between some of the words that he wrote, and it does definitely look like he has manipulated that a little bit, yeah. Especially when the IND stuff comes out, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't mean to derail. Let's go ahead, Craig. Sorry about that.
No, right. So after that concerned citizens card sent, there's little about the Zodiac in the papers. It's gone. It's old news. It's old news. So you then get to Lake Berryessa. Now, personally, I'm sure people disagree, but I think that was heavily influenced by the San Jose and the Manson crimes. You've got knife attacks, which all three of them were. The two Manson and Snoozy Furlong. You've got writing on doors, which was evident at both Manson murders. You had writing on doors. They were referred to as ritualistic murders as well.
Yep.
So, but the one that stands out for me, and perhaps it's a little bit tenuous, but newspaper reports reported that Sebring had a black hood over his head when he was found, which, possibly could have been an inspiration for the hood.
I agree.
The thing is as well, which you find funny about, well, not funny because of the subject matter, but about Lake Berryessa, he never mentions that sketch once.
The Graysmith?
No,
Lake Berryessa, nice looking guy sketch. Yeah.
Oh, the Lurker, sure.
Never mentions that once, but later on, he's heavily consisting that Presidio Heights sketch.
All over that, yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of that? What do you make of that, Craig?
Well, that Lake Berryessa sketch was doing him a favour because he looked nothing like that.
Yeah, I agree.
100%.
So he was quite happy for that to be in the papers.
Yeah,
people think he looked like that, but as soon as
what a fantastic piece of deflection.
Exactly. Yeah,
I agree with you guys.
Didn't even have to work for it.
So we all know. Well, people in my channel, should I say, my audience know about Dion's one killer theory. Might have to shut my window; it's a little loud in the background. Are you guys totally out on the Lake Berryessa Lurker as a accomplice, Zodiac, either Zodiac himself, which we just covered, or an accomplice? I mean, he's there on the same day, but he's.
I wouldn't say 100%. Like, you can't be 100% sure about anything in this bloody case, mate.
Yeah.
So I keep my mind open to things, but at this stage of my research and with what we know in the public domain, I just can't see that being him. The behaviour, the whole. Just the actions and the timings and everything else. I mean, would Zodiac really creep up that close to people like that? I don't know, but
not without
I keep my mind open.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. As Craig was just saying, I mean, if he creeps up that close to people and they get that accurate of a composite sketch, like Craig was just saying, Lurker versus Presidio Heights, well, then you have two semi-accurate ones of the last two canonicals. So it's like, that's a major problem for Zodiac, whereas the Lurker thing is like a red herring, right?
Yeah, and the other. Sorry, Craig.
Go on. I was going to say, if he was that happy to lurk around these people and be seen, why would he wear a hood to do the attack?
100%.
No, it makes no sense, does it?
100%. Especially when he never wore one that we know of at any of the other chronicles. So now, if that was his thing, that's one thing. Quick question on the Sebring hood, Craig. Do we have any photograph or sketch of that, or is there just no reference that we
No, there's just a few
blurbs,
references to it in the paper. It was found with black hood on.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. See, I totally agree with the helter skelter and the pigs thing. The other thing I've discussed heavily with Ned DeHaan is the Ghoul Street graffito of Jack the Ripper. And I totally agree where Craig is going, but in my mind, Zodiac wasn't just referencing these crimes; he was combining them together. Much like adding the comic book references. We could get to ABC murders, and obviously we all know The Most Dangerous Game, the literature. But as far as his art project in Zodiac's mind, again, complete mind of idiot psychopath, he's combining all these references to his masterpiece, and so like writing on the doors, as you said, but then the Jack the Ripper reference, of course, the hood, but
he's struggling so hard to try and come up with his own identity, his own niche, but he's having to pinch everyone else's ideas,
But by combining him together in his mind, it's original, because look what I did. They all came before me, and now I made this one. Or another thing we didn't mention that I also think is a hood reference is the Texarkana Phantom, the Texarkana Moonlight Murders, a hooded serial killer attacking, lovers' lanes, younger couples. So it
was not rare, was it?
Well, you had was it Darwin Jenkins was doing it a few years before in Vallejo. He was going up to couples and parked cars with a black hood on.
Okay, see, I didn't know about that. Do we have any? Do we have any reference of what that hood looked like? Just out of curiosity.
Off the top of my head, I don't think we do. There's only news reports of describing it, but it didn't really elaborate on it.
Shout out to Gorilla Train, appreciate you. And I don't want to derail Craig too much because this is amazing stuff. But finally, the Mikado, Coco, the Lord High Executioner. So it does seem to be lining up all those references, unless we're adding more things to Zodiac's repertoire, which a lot of people say, but we can't. None of us know, right?
No.
Yeah, carry on, sir.
So obviously he leaves two survivors initially, and poor Cecilia passes.
Yep.
But what I find interesting is on the 10th of October, Brian Hartnell was released from hospital.
Mm-hmm.
The next day is Presidio Heights.
Absolutely great.
Now that
no coincidence
there. I find that extremely interesting.
Extremely interesting. So I'm assuming you're going to say there was an article announcing Brian was released, or was it publicized?
Yes.
Yeah.
There was.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Saying he was walking out of Queen of the Valley Hospital in Napa, and he was going back to his college classes that day.
100%.
And I'll just add my wee piece here. Sorry. You picture yourself in Zodiac's shoes after the Berryessa attack, when he reads the paper, when the reports come out, and he sees both victims bloody survived.
Yeah.
I'll bet that next 48 hours, as painful as it was for Cecilia and Brian, would have been just as painful in here for Zodiac. And when Brian walks out of hospital on the 10th, I think that might have just lit a bit of a spark in him.
Set him off. Yeah. I mean, because you've now failed at, nearly failed at Lake Herman Road with Betty almost escaping. Yeah. Failed at Blue Rock Springs, failed at Lake Berryessa, and then you also have was it Avery and the guys saying, you're a lady killer, so it's all kind of adding up the pressure on
he was losing control of his narrative.
100%.
And he had to get control 100%. Back of it,
100%.
So,
which he did in a big way, didn't he? Then, because he threatened school children. He threatened. Which the timing's interesting, seeing it was in the papers that he'd been seen, and he'd been witnessed by school children.
Oh, nice! I never put that together. I like what you did there. Yeah. That's really smart, man. Yeah.
So again, referencing newspaper articles about what was seen and trying to be the bigger.
And at the same time, trying to scare the witnesses.
100%.
Who had seen him.
Can I just say here too, how mad was it that they used to print victims' bloody addresses in the newspaper?
Oh my God!
Can I just say how crazy that was? Sorry, That's
another thing I would not want that happen to me. I mean, I'm ready for it, but like a scumbag
2024 guys, we had no idea what it was like back then. Crazy,
Put this together, what Craig said, replicating the Belli address thing, which means he stood outside on his doorstep. The Daniel Williams thing we're coming to, if you believe that. So for sure, dude is not afraid to creep around your house or possibly break into it. So major.
And don't forget the stamps, the Jefferson stamps he used on that Belli letter. Look, I mean, if you look at pictures of Jefferson or pictures of Jefferson, it looks just like Belli.
Just like Belli.
That's crazy. Yeah, I really like the Apollo.
I think that's why he might have picked those stamps. You've got the 3x2, obviously, which is on the Cipher, and but crazy.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I really like the Apollo stamp stuff that's coming up. Just real quick, Fire Pixie, this is relevant. Why wear the hood at all? Did he mean to leave one alive to tell about it? I mean, I think obviously not. The fact that he missed Brian's heart just kind of shows you that he's an idiot, or he got too excited on Cecilia and wasn't able to finish the job if he was tired or frantic or whatever. Just my opinion. You guys could react.
Yeah, I think he was having a bob both ways. I think he felt that if he killed his victims, the hood was going to protect him from blood splatter. He planned to go into Napa to make the phone call, so he obviously didn't want to go in there covered in blood. So he has this disguise, and the ornateness of it, the crazy nature of it. I mean, there's a million explanations for that. He might have picked that up from a store somewhere, sewn on the Zodiac symbol, but. Yeah. If they remained alive, which they did, I think he wanted them to be able to relate that symbol back. And if they died, I think he might have worn that again. It might have been a bit of a test as well for his victims. Do you recognize the symbol? Like, it would have been interesting to see if Brian or Cecilia had recognized it and said, hey, aren't you that guy that's been killing people? He might have been forced into using his gun then. We'll never know.
Because he never announces it.
Great question. It really is.
Brought that up last show. Is Brian and Cecilia neither are from Northern California, so they weren't familiar with the Zodiac crimes. And I think, as Dion just said, my speculation, I think he was expecting that. Oh my God, aren't you the Zodiac? When he never gets it, then he just doesn't bring it up. Oh, I'm an escaped convict from Montana, which is nowhere near Lake Berryessa. Let's keep it real, in terms of commute killing, Yeah. So
ego got away on with it. Yeah.
Going to Mexico, violate Berryessa.
From Northern California. I always wondered why he just didn't go with Canada, because it's so much closer.
Maybe he speaks Spanish.
But I like
Ned. Down to the border.
Honestly, though, I do like Ned DeHaan's take on that, which is the Chicago crime, where the dude said, I'm trying to escape. He said something very similar, like trying to get to Mexico. It does seem like Zodiac poaching quotes from other crimes. And I haven't looked into it as much as him, just a possible. But, again.
I think part of that hood as well, maybe, the fear it would have instilled in him if they'd have known about Zodiac would have helped him control that situation better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even without the Zodiac thing, the fear would have helped,
100%.
Right. Yeah.
My follow-up to that would be, and I know I've unfortunately become the face of the non-canonicals due to my main series, is how badly Gaviota Beach went, that it's a complete mess, that he clearly got punched in his face and then bled all over the scene 75 feet up. So, I mean, that's, I don't know I know you're kind of like, you're considering it, Dion. I'm not sure where you're at, Craig, or even on the non-canonicals overall, but it does seem, if that was pre-Zodiac, that he comes with the mask and the rope and the story, because if it's the same guy, or even learning from that crime, if it's not the same guy, that went completely wrong when dude tried to, stab Robert Domingos' girlfriend and, got completely beat up by a guy while holding an automatic rifle in his hand. It's like either he read about it, or if he did it himself, well, if I get beat up by Brian Hartnell, who's 6'7", now I'm a complete clown. Now I'm a complete clown because I brought a massive Rambo knife and a gun, and I almost just lost my second fight to a victim. You know what I mean? Like that's where my mind goes. And again, the Zodiac community is not 100% with me on that. It is what it is.
Well, you could just imagine Zodiac's face when Brian Hartnell stood up.
Just thinking that.
Shit.
Having nightmares of Robert Domingos. Like, damn it, I got beat up by a high school kid last time. Now it's a college kid.
But hey, I'll tell you this though: if Rayfield, if the dentist and his son had seen Zodiac, then the first guy as he approached had a freaking gun in his hand. So, the first guy went to had a gun in his hand, and now we've got a 6'4" guy in front of him.
Me and Dion have talked about that behind the scenes, Craig. And like, what do you make of the Rayfield story? Because the cops simply said that it was too far away for Zodiac to walk or drive, even though it's the same day. Right, Dion? So they just now I know obviously they didn't see his face because he turned around and walked the other way or whatever. But I mean, so we said we're not really feeling the lurker. What do you feel about that sighting, Craig? Do you think that's more promising?
I think that there's more chance of that being him than the lurker.
Yeah.
And how far was it? 8/10 of a mile from memory.
It was like 3 or 4 peninsulas up. Yeah. So I don't know why they wrote that off, but hey, I'm a YouTube guy, not an expert here, so
I think they based it on the timings, didn't they? On the timeline that they developed.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how accurate it can be with that timeline, To be
it's
honest,
very ambiguous based off what we
Yeah,
know.
it is. Yeah.
But ZAP has interviewed both David Rayfield and Linda Denton, and coming away from those interviews, the takeaway we got was that the lurker probably wasn't Zodiac, and the guy that David Rayfield saw probably was Zodiac, and that's just based on the timings, based on what David told us about how the guy they saw appeared to be looking for them, and when he saw David with the rifle in his hand, he just sort of turned and walked right around the hill.
100%.
He was definitely not down there for leisure, if you know what
fishing or obviously animal hunting.
That says a lot to me. And the only, as I said, the tribulation with it is the timings, but it does fit in with the killer having come in before going to Brian and Cecilia. So it's
definitely.
It says in the police report 6:30, but I think we can mitigate that. But that's just
going off the lurker, so a pile of cigarette butts that they don't collect, but you guys can check me on this. The green beer bottle, I thought they did keep that up by the lurker. Did they have that in evidence? So they supposedly have a couple things that may have been touched by the lurker. Of course, we never get an update on that for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, it is in the police report that they did take it into evidence and lifted prints and that off it, but I don't know whether or not they were any good or whether they're testing on it or not. And the thing is, we don't know the origins of that bottle. We don't know who put it there. All we know that it was
before or after.
No, that's right, mate. We don't. As I think Tom said, we've only got 1% of the information out here in the public domain. Where effectively you're trying to put together a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle with only 10 of the pieces, and with this bottle, it's one of the ambiguous things, if you know what I mean. It's
I agree.
It could have been their days, it could have been their weeks.
100%.
Exactly right, mate. We just don't know for sure, so you keep an open mind.
No.
Absolutely. Carry on, Craig. I love what you guys are doing.
So so the day after he sends the Stein letter, the day of the Stein letter, the sketch comes out. And then you don't have anything, do you, until the sketch is done again on the 17th. Now, I know a lot of people question why the age range changes on that sketch.
Yeah.
But all you got to do is look at the initial police report by Palisetti, and it's got the ages there that the Robins obviously told him at the time. And when you look at that initial sketch, it also references other homicides and robberies of cab drivers on there. So that is, in my mind, that sketch and the age, height, etc., was a median of all those other crimes witnesses as well. And that's why it was. And then it was only once that letter was received that they realised that, it was Zodiac. So they discounted a lot of that old witness statements from previous robberies and homicide, and that's why they got back to that original age range.
That tracks.
That's
and there's a rumor too. Sorry, that the error in translation to being a Negro male adult was because of that pre-existing stereotype of robberies of cab drivers being Negro male adults. I don't know, I don't know if there's any basis of truth to that, but that's the rumor that there is.
That would make perfect sense, and
it does make sense. That was the attitude back in those days.
Honestly, you know what I can give for a metaphor for that I think is almost exactly the same example in the Cooper case, when they say that DB Cooper is like olive skinned, or we've all heard this. I think they said like native blood. I don't know how you could tell that from looking at a person's face, much like the Falk Zodiac is Welsh thing. I never understood where that came from, but very similar situation. A lot of the air hijackers were, with Cuba, it was a conflict with the whole Cuban thing going on. So a lot of them were of Latin American origin. And, even some of the Cooper sleuths now are starting to say that may have just came up because so many of them were Latin American, previously, that it's like it could have just been a random white guy, but he had Latin looking skin and it's not even a real thing, That's what it reminds me of, just so it happens.
Folk did clear that up, didn't he, with Mark Ridelli?
Yes.
He said it was the body type.
Yeah.
The body type reminded him of Welsh coal miners.
Okay. Okay, I
He
didn't.
said it was all about body
Yeah,
type.
And so barrel chested. Are we going back to barrel chested or?
yeah.
Just general shape, I think.
Yeah, I assume sort of. I don't want to be stereotypical, but a rugby player build.
Quote.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't catch that one. So you guys are putting me on right now. That's interesting. And then there's massive problems, of course. Okay, just real quick before Craig gets us back on track, what do you guys make of this Lindsey Robbins story that his dad told him he touched Paul and touched the cab, so the bloody print is his? Although Palisetti says he stopped the kids before they got to the cab, right? So that's two different stories there.
Well, like Dion said before, Rebecca was interviewed, and this was years before this come out, and she never mentioned that.
Yeah, and also Zap, interviewed Rebecca 2017, and she never mentioned that either. In fact, quite the opposite. So,
that's what I was referring to. Yeah.
And so I don't buy that for a second. But if you look through the reports, the general consensus in the state and FBI reports is that they have his latent prints on file there, but that they're not very good quality. In fact, really rubbish quality. Only good enough for inclusion and not for identification. Yeah.
Dion is the FBI report analyzer. If anybody has any questions on that, and I go to him.
I'm not proud of that either.
But thank God for you.
Rather you than me, mate.
Oh, no, I know.
I look at one Cooper 302 and I'm like, I can't even open the Zodiac ones. But anyway,
he's a wee bit intellectually challenging, lads. I'll give you that. But yeah.
Oh dear. This is when the pressure starts heating up for Zodiac, because that's when the conference happens with the police. That was on the 20th. And then on the 22nd, you've got the Dunbar call. The call to the Dunbar show. Now, I personally think Zodiac would have hated that call, because Eric sounded pitiful.
Sounded weak. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He'd have really taken objection to that.
Yeah.
Really,
he'd never present himself that,
no,
at a disadvantage, at that disadvantage.
No. And I think that's why you get the tone in the Belle letter that you do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
So mocking, a very sarcastic mocking tone of Eric, right, who is the mental hospital patient.
Well, he paraphrases a lot of in the Belle letter. He paraphrases a lot of that phone call in the show.
Yep.
He really does. Yeah. But on the 24th, I don't know what to think of this one. News starts breaking in the Manson murders, because obviously Charles Manson, I think he'd been arrested, but they hadn't tied him to the murders yet.
Yeah.
If memory serves me right. They announced that they've got a major new piece of evidence in the case, and it's a pair of horn-rimmed glasses. So I could just imagine Zodiac jumping straight on that.
Going and getting a pair.
Well, he already had a pair. He'd been seen with him at Presidio Heights.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was
think. Yeah. So it does make you wonder if that's why he carries on with this Pigs, Yellow Submarine, Beatles,
Blue Meanies. Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's it. 100%. That's it. I can't see any other reason.
Yeah, definitely. He obviously, he's influenced by it. So next you get the dripping pen card, don't you? Then the 340.
Yeah.
Which I just want to say huge respect to them three for solving that.
Oh yeah, David Doranchak, Sam Blake. I don't know if you guys read the white paper. Have you guys read the white paper yet about that? What they did?
What I could understand, yeah.
Yeah, same. Yeah, it's amazing. It's really, nobody knows it like Doranchak. I think they all wrote it together. I'm halfway through. I should have finished it for this show. Didn't get to finish it. But like Craig said, if you're not pretty much a mathematical cipher genius, it's heavy material, but I like to read it anyway. I'm the least Cipher guy in the community, as we all know.
Oh, no, me too, mate. I'm not much on them either,
but very interesting.
I just trust the experts, mate. Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, though, there was an article in the Chronicle about the 408 when that first got released. And there was somebody in there saying, well, proposing that the 408 would be a three-tiered cipher of diagonal structure, which, funnily enough, was the 408. The 340 ended up being. So again, is that possibly been influencing?
Inspiration.
Yeah. Is that where he's got this?
Yeah.
Is that where he's got this idea from? Possibly.
Interesting.
But obviously now we know what that cipher said. It was solved. We know the text of it
recently. Yeah.
Which obviously he's still got to be in his bonnet at this point about the Belli call, because he mentions he's not afraid of the gas chamber.
Yeah. Response to the Dunbar call. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's obviously, it's on his mind.
Yep.
But then he comes out with the nonsense of he's got enough slaves now to work for him in the afterlife. Says, I don't need any more. And then the next day, he sends a letter, the Buzzbomb, saying he's going to not announce the way he's collecting his slaves.
Yeah.
So
can't make up his mind.
One thing to the public, another thing hidden.
Yeah. When people bring this up to me, it's usually in the context of my series, the non-canonicals. But I mean, that's my whole thing, as Craig just said. If it's, my mission is accomplished. Oh, by the way, what is with the Kathleen Johns thing and the Donna Lass thing, and why am I even writing a peek through the pines card if I already told you I'm complete? And it doesn't track. Not that everything Zodiac said does.
Well, I think this is where I think the Daniel Williams thing comes in, because I think it was on the 8th or the 9th they started becoming these newspaper articles of Zodiac being involved in the Daniel Williams case. So I think this is why we have two letters a day apart, because in that 9th of November, he's going on about fake accidents and all this, and he says up till the end of October I've killed 7.
Yeah, it's funny.
So implying that maybe there's something in November.
Yeah.
But he'd said in the 340 the day before he finished. So it completely contradicts itself.
Here's a question, Craig. Could it be that he has it, and this would be more of like a Richard thing, I don't pretend to understand the letters, that he has stuff pre-written and then he's just like sending, in other words, it could have been something that he wrote, but he's just sending them out at kind of random times. So
possibly so. I know that some of the letters, they do look, even though they were sent together, it looks like they're originally written as 2 different letters.
That's kind of what I
was saying.
Little list. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
So, possibly he's trying to hint towards that, but it's when he goes down the prints. I don't, fingertip guards, transparent aeroplane cement.
Yeah.
I only look like that sketch when
I do my thing.
So if you only look like that, if you don't look like that sketch normally, why would you say you don't look like that sketch normally?
100%, mate.
You'd want people to think you look like that.
I think it's the dumbest.
Obviously, airplane cement on my fingertips. Why would you say they say they've got the fingerprints at the scene? If they're not your fingerprints, why would you even bother?
Exactly.
Let them think there is.
I would pour some more dressing on it when he goes to I was hiding in the bushes and I saw everybody bring the dogs and the motorcycles by me. Like the whole thing sounds fabricated from that perspective. I'm sure he ran into the park, but I don't see him camping out there. And he says, I watched all the cars and they drove right by me. Like he just went, he's just piling it on at that point. It's like, it spiraled out of control. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Your own point doesn't even make sense, Like
the letters were such a good way for him to be able to manipulate the investigation like that. And I think he knew that. And I think he knew that the very moment he picked that piece of shirt out of the taxi, he knew he didn't have to kill again because they'd take him seriously.
Yep.
And he could just manipulate the investigation. Look at me, I didn't leave fingerprints. I only look like that occasionally, blah, blah, friggin' blah. Here's a piece of the shirt to prove it. And of course, they're going to take him seriously, aren't they? And everything he says from there, we're still discussing it 55 years later. So it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did give us busy work. You got to give
gave
him credit for that.
Work. Gave us all busy work, the investigation, and us. What was I going to say? So Majo's description at BRS, he didn't have any glasses on, right?
He didn't.
No, not in the original reports.
Okay, so and that's what I was getting at with Craig. I'm always trying to figure out, like, did this guy was that his genius disguise? Was it the Herman glasses, or is it just something he doesn't, he wears on and off, which seems to be the case. But and I know that's not a major point, but it just because he brings up his disguise,
His disguise was the confusion he caused with everybody. And some of it was intentional, and a lot of it was just accidental, happy-go-lucky accidents.
Along the way, for sure.
He got the luck he didn't deserve,
But again, he's using pigs in that letter as well, isn't he? He uses the term pigs, which,
Again, a Manson reference.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be a Manson reference, could be. Yeah.
And, Manson hadn't been charged at that point. I think it was the 1st of December. Around the 1st of December, when they charged him with the crimes. So at that point, he could have, he still could have been trying to take credit for those murders.
Take credit for that crime. And this is the other thing. It could have been a reference to that, because I think the girls, wasn't it Susan Atkins and that got arrested, I think in about mid-October, was it? But they were charged for something else, and it was only when bloody
I think it was
stealing
Susan Atkins started bragging in prison or whatever about the crimes that they actually got charged for them. So that was a bit later on.
So, but again, he's going that, he's trying to prove his involvement again, isn't he? With the asked the Vallejo cops about my gun sight.
Yeah,
it seems to be an ongoing theme with him trying to prove this involvement.
Another throwback to Lake Herman Road, and he's constantly throwing back to Lake Herman Road. It's quite funny. He seems quite proud of that electric gun sight thing that he thinks he's invented. But I can tell you this now: my uncle was using flashlights attached to his weapon when he was working for the Rabbit Board here in the early '60s. So it's not exactly a great invention. No. If we're using something here in New Zealand in the early '60s, I can guarantee you they were using it in the States about 20 years before that, mate.
Yeah, it's not new. And of course, there's
come on, he's not that original.
Man, the Hitchcock episode museum piece where the dude puts the light. So none of it's new. Atkins, it says arrest October, and then it says the police raided Spawn Ranch August 16th, 1969. So it's about a month, almost exactly.
Yeah, they raided Spawn Ranch at August 16th, and I think they moved back in there at some stage, and they were arrested there for something else. And then, that's when Susan Atkins started bragging to inmates and that about that murder at the ranch. So it's
Archangel Michael came with this, the Saint Vincent de Paul feast day. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, and it will being 27th, and Vincent dying on the 27th, 1660. Prior to that, it was celebrated in July. I'm always looking for stuff like that. Haven't heard of that one. And then
I didn't know that. Yeah.
The Dunbar call in October 22nd. The caller agreed to meet Belli at St. Vincent de Paul. I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. That's
cool.
That's
interesting. Yeah,
that's interesting. I hadn't heard of that. Okay, carry on, gents. Just popping in with the chat periodically.
So this is as well when he's taking credit for the seemingly for snoozing Furlong with his seven victims. So then you come to the Belli letter, which, like you mentioned before, he's obviously gone to Belli's house, stood outside, and copied that number, the font for the number.
Yep,
which says a lot about him, really.
Yeah. He actually shows up in person. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I think as well, though, part of that was to insinuate to Belli that he knew where he lived.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Belli's in Presidio Heights, or he's nearby. Which neighborhood is that?
No, he's more out towards the east side of San Francisco, Montgomery Street. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that when you look at that letter, like I say, he paraphrases the phone call a lot. I've got some of the quotes here. If you just bear with me 1 second. So Eric Wheel says, I'm sick, I have headaches. I don't want to go to the gas chamber, I have headaches. I'm having a headache right now, I've got to kill. Then Belli says to him, do you say something? Well, I didn't say anything, that was my headache. So that's the thing inside of him. That Zodiac is talking about. Me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And you know, in the phone call, he's saying I have these headaches that make me want to kill, which is that's how I take it anyway.
Yeah.
I take it as he's mocking. He's mocking.
He is mocking.
Oh, agreed.
Can also just quickly mention, sorry guys, too. Very notable that in that letter he mentions the word control 3 times. And remember before I said about Zodiac wanting to take control back of his narrative after Brian walked out of hospital. To me, this is an example of Zodiac wanting to take control of the Belli/Dunbar situation. And that letter certainly did that. He got his attention with that bloody shirt and what Craig's talking about here with the insinuations to what's previously been said. Belli just seems so, I don't know, obviously it might have been different in private, but he seems so blasé about the whole thing, as if, oh, Zodiac wants my attention. Great publicity for him, I suppose, but my word.
Well, an egomaniac springs to mind.
Unquestionably. I'm always bringing up how Belli was on the Star Trek episode, and we didn't mention it, but right before, obviously, Bullet, McQueen's depiction of Toschi comes out in '68. Then there's this other kind of article, YouTube thing that just popped up about the 10th victim. It was this sci-fi movie, similar to A Most Dangerous Game. There's several film adaptations of hunting people in the future. So there does seem, if you put the comic book thing, there does seem to be this underlying science fiction, pop culture movie theme. So, I know Belli obviously had other, media and, stuff like that other than Star Trek. But, they mentioned it in the movie, and it does seem to be up Zodiac's angle as like a fat sci-fi nerd sitting at home watching TV. You know what I mean?
Belli, sorry, Craig.
Go on. Sorry, after you.
I was just going to say too, Belli quite possibly represented a figure that Zodiac wished he could be like, but never could aspire to being. And there would have been a tinge of jealousy there as well, that Belli was getting all that publicity over the incident more than Zodiac was, and he would have hated that. So here's this letter with a bit of bloody chirp, mate. I don't like that you're getting all my publicity. Boom.
Yeah.
Because that was what he was like, vindictive to all
100%.
Yeah. And by the way, I know where you live.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And both of them, both have Belli and Zodiac both have obnoxious media egos competing for the media coverage, as Dion was saying.
Manipulation, domination, and control. That's just what that was.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
What were you saying, Greg?
So then you have the 4 months of silence, don't we? He disappears for whatever reason. Possibly because Manson got caught, maybe. So, he was shown that he was not being truthful with his claims about an involvement there, if he was implying that in the first place. But I think the next time really that he's making the major news is with the Kathleen Johns incident. I think that was reported on the 23rd of May was when it started appearing in papers. And then obviously the next time is the 20th of April when the Robert Salem murders and the Satan Saves Zodiac written on the wall.
Yeah.
Now it's interesting that he sends a letter on the exact same day.
Yeah, same day. I
Same
think
day.
It was within hours or something that it happened.
Yeah.
My needle's moved on that. I know a lot of people don't think. I can't rule out Zodiac for that. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm alone.
I think didn't they have a suspect, Stanley Baker? I think that they locked for that. Yeah,
Stanley Baker got charged. Well, he didn't get charged with that.
Baker.
He got charged with another one.
Other ones, but they
but then they associated it with that.
They thought there was no point in charging him because he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
That would be some escalation for Zodiac to go from shooting a cab driver in the head to that. My word, that would be some level of escalation.
That's you're not wrong there. I mean, I know Richard recently brought up. I don't know if you're coming to it, Craig, the Huss thing with the prostitute murders, and I guess there was fire involved. I don't know if you have that in your material, but I definitely want to bring that up.
Yeah. I've got it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So then we get that letter's the My Name Is letter, which obviously is a response to DCB Marsh when I think it was the year before he'd asked for him to write his name in the cipher.
Yep.
But again, I think there's a little element of Zodiac proving that it's him when he says about how much money is on my head.
Mm.
Because after Lake Herman Road, there was an article which basically said that. It said the murderer of Betty Lou and David Faraday now has a price on their head.
Berryessa Times Herald, I think in early January, that was,
Yeah. And also the yellow taxi cab company put up $1,000 reward for his capture as well.
Yep.
So, he used to be truthful when he said it. There was a price on his head.
And it was a response as well, as you said,
Yeah.
Again, throwing back to newspaper articles, Yep.
But then, a couple of days later, reports started appearing in the papers that he'd perhaps made a mistake in that letter. Police were looking at the comments about being swamped out. They were looking for flooded areas.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens a few days later? He sends another card. Make of that what you want.
Another correction.
Was he trying to deflect again?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh no, but he was telling the truth in every single letter he sent. Come on, guys.
Well,
that's what the internet tells you.
What, a serial killer would lie to you? Come on.
No.
I love when I debate and people say like, well, that's not right, Ross, because the Zodiac didn't say that. I'm like, oh, is that our benchmark for
if the Zodiac told you to go and jump off a bridge, would you do it?
I like where people are always, disagreeing with me on the Bell Eye Star Trek thing, but Holly said that he premiered 10/11/68. That sounds right on. That sounds right on to me. I love the sci-fi TV movie angle. Anyway.
Holly's onto it, mate. She's very, very sharp. She'll be all over that.
Yeah, she's the
very much so,
without a doubt.
Well, she should be.
Yeah.
So the
family connection.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it'd be kind of obvious, right? The bus bomb being swamped out. Yeah, I'm so confused about the swamped out death machine thing. I think it's more nonsense. And when people say, well, Ross, Arthur Lee Allen had a basement. Oh, slam dunk. I guess we could all go home, So.
Well, the funny thing is about that basement comment, there was actually a phrase around at the time called basement bombers.
Interesting.
And it was people who were making toy rockets in the basement. And there was
airplane glue.
Well, but from memory, the police asked them to stop doing it because people were blowing themselves up.
Oh, that makes sense.
Sounds like all the meth labs we've got over here, but yeah.
If only Zodiac's death machine went off on a missed opportunity.
But obviously that dragon card, he's still going on about Bell Eye.
Yeah.
He's still pissed about that one.
Stuck on it.
Yeah. But it's whether it's coincidence or not, you did have a similar card on Hartnell's wall while he's in hospital.
I'm stuck on that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what that is. Could he just see it in the background of the Hartnell TV interview, or I don't know. Unless it's just that common of a card, we don't know. But
Just common, I think. Like, we've got to remember, back in those days, we didn't have 4 gazillion options for things. They were a bit more streamlined and basic back
Late
then.
60s.
Put it this way, if we were going to sit here and list every single coincidence in the Zodiac killer case, we'd be here all freaking
1,000 more volumes by series.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's no connection there. There quite possibly is, but
it's not
sometimes you can look for ghosts where there aren't any, and
I like what our boy from Discord said. Just real quick, Greg, looks like a guy who wanted to turn Zodiac into a media spectacle with him at the center, but he probably shat his pants later when a real piece of Stein shirt arrived at his house. I mean, it doesn't get any more direct. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, probably right there too. Yeah,
you know he did. Go ahead, Greg.
I would as well, I think.
We all would.
See, I'm off. I'm going.
I'm moving.
Move countries. Yeah, I'll go to Mexico, mate. I've heard the tequila's nice down there. Yeah,
moving down to New Zealand with Dion for me.
Oh yeah, come over here, mate. We'll sort you out. Don't worry about that.
You have to go via Berryessa, though, mate.
Oh, absolutely.
If you go to Mexico, you've got to go that way.
I might just go skin diving out at Salt Point instead, eh?
Yeah. As Greg
said,
there. Even someone who lives on the Mexico border like me, the only way through Mexico is through Lake Berryessa, so I still have to drive 10 hours.
Exactly, yeah. Well, that's it. All roads lead to Mexico through Berryessa. It's simple. Yeah. Route 66 is going up through there now, apparently, too. So
glad we cleared that up.
100%.
But, yeah,
it's good enough for Alice Cooper. It's good enough for us.
That dragon is quite odd. The phrasing in it.
Yeah.
Please no nasty buttons. Please.
Like the ones about Melvin.
Yeah, please. But he's threatening the bomb. It just
Yeah.
Plus he's also employing
is that a polite threat? Sorry, Dean.
He's also employing that real corny sense of humor of his. I hope you enjoy yourselves while I have my blast.
Idiot. Genius wordplay.
Yeah. But obviously, the police had suppressed the bomb threats, hadn't they? They hadn't made public.
Media,
yeah.
And that's what they actually. There's an FBI file that specifically states that SFPD were not going to be releasing those unless he directly threatened them and said, if you don't print this in the paper, I'll do this. They were just not going to do it from then on.
Yep.
Well, it was on the 1st of May. So, 3 or 4 days after that letter, they did announce that they'd withheld that information. I think they said they'd had two previous letters with it in. So, that must have pissed him off as well, that he wasn't being printed. He was making these threats and they just weren't printing them. So he was losing control of that situation at this point.
He was losing all his publicity, wasn't he?
Yeah. Definitely.
It's almost like he was getting bored, or he'd moved on with his life, or he was doing something else. I don't know. Or if you believe he was still killing people, he was still doing that. But I don't. But I think it ended at Presidio Heights there, and that he kind of figured out that he could get just as much of a kick out of sending the letters and manipulating things and terrorizing the Bay Area than he ever did out of killing people. And he wasn't that good at killing people, just in my personal opinion. So
too much work.
Oh, he just wasn't good at it.
I think he was scared after Presidio. He almost got caught. People knew what he looked like.
Yep.
I think it scared him. Simple.
I think Mikey's now at the end.
At the very least, no more downtown, downtown city activity. You know what I mean? It's too much risk commuting in and out if that's the case.
Yeah. Well, I mean, by that, so there's no one was parking in Lovers Lanes by October 1969. I mean, there was a mad serial killer running around shooting them. So he had to get creative with his selection of victims and crime scene, especially after Berryessa. Like the weather was changing. People weren't going to be going down there and doing their thing sort of later on in the evening for him. So he had to get creative. And I think going to the city also had the impact, that impact, let's bring the investigation to the big board. Yeah. And that got him the maximum attention, which I think is kind of what he was after.
Yeah, Tosky being the media, law enforcement officer, much like Belli is the media, attorney.
Yeah. Battling wits against the best, the very best, instead of what he might think is the country bumpkin outfits, you know, like the Solano County and those guys. He wants to battle SFPD. I want to be the big man, box against the big boys, even though you're a freaking idiot. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
Sorry. Did I say that?
Better myself.
It's all right.
You're right.
So, yeah. So yeah, I think there's evidence there. He's lost control. He's not getting what he wants.
Yep.
So, personally, I think that's perhaps why the next letter he sends is a cipher again, because that's where he waited for him in the past.
The big mystery.
Yeah. I know something you don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's perhaps why he went that way. But he obviously talks about Richard Raditich. I shot a man in a parked car with 38. But the examiner actually said that. The examiner paper said about the murder: 3 shots at a police car with a .38 caliber pistol.
So it kind of regurgitates it.
So yeah, it's there. He's there.
Yeah.
He's just doing his usual.
No, repeating, just repetition.
It's interesting that he calls it a man though, and not a police officer. I mean, remember he wrote a letter saying there's more glory in killing a cop than killing a kid. And then he goes on referencing a cop murder, saying I killed a guy or a person in a car with a 38. Why didn't he say I'm a cop killer? I killed a cop. It just makes no friggin' sense to me.
Yeah, but it's that ambiguous way of claiming them that he does all the way through. All the way through. Like he never directly says. He sort of hints. He hints at involvement in these crimes.
Yeah. But what happened to I'm not going to announce collecting my slaves anymore?
That's what Craig was before. He's totally confused. And that's exactly where I'm at on the I see you found my Riverside activity. It's like the blonde cheerleader, the girl at the college library, like absolutely no detail. It's just a Riverside activity. Okay, buddy. Like what?
Zodiac Riverside. Thanks, mate.
Without Avery, I don't
you
know.
Can give that to me. Yeah, cheers, mate.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, the letters are weird, but without Avery, I don't know if the Riverside thing really ever comes up. The slow boat to China letter.
Well, what's interesting to me is that when Curly Kincaid originally got in touch with Napa, Earl Randall, I think he got in touch with, as evidence included, like this was after Berryessa, when Curly Kincaid thought that Riverside might be a similar attack. He sent through his copy of the confession letter, the typed confession letter. He never sent through those 3 had to die letters or the desk poem. And that says to me that Riverside were quite happy that they weren't from the killer or were not associated with that case. So it's only been later on those things have been found, brought up and brought to Sherwood Morrill, who, I'm not going to get going on him, trust me. But that's where that all kicked off. So why in 1969, when they originally contacted them, why weren't these letters an issue then?
100%.
I don't understand it.
100%.
Confession letter, yes, it was printed in I think it was Inside Detective in January 1969. So he could have gotten all his quotes from there. And trust me, twitch and squirm, they talk about the spelling of twitch and squirm being unique between the confession letter and what Zodiac wrote. And I can tell you this now, it's not. You go back and you search newspaper records of the time, it's actually quite common. Not only that, I've Googled it quite extensively. There's a band that has lyrics, and it's a real obscene, obscure song, so I won't quote them exactly, but in there, they're spelled exactly the same. I'm going to make you twitch and squirm. It's spelled exactly the same. It's not uncommon, as people might think. Yeah,
definitely. So where we're
very button into you.
Raditich, I think we just.
Oh yeah, 38. Yeah.
See, I'm a good host. Kind of.
So he's next one then is obviously the little list letter.
Yeah.
And it's almost desperate, that letter is.
Yeah.
It feels desperate. Please wear some buttons, any buttons, nice, whatever.
Yeah.
It just, he's lost control. He knows he's lost control at this point.
Yeah.
But
Holly's right there.
The funny thing is, they didn't even print that letter, did they? They didn't even print it.
Yeah.
With
Didn't
all
see
that
the printer.
work, all that
Didn't get what he
creativity
wanted.
to try and show off, and
Yeah.
you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
Losing clout.
Yeah.
Losing clout.
Exactly. Yeah. So now he's pretty much done. He thinks
Zero credibility.
Old
Yeah.
news.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
you mean I have to kill again to try and get some more attention? Wow. And
Too
this
much
is when, of course, this is when Riverside. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
I won't
Yeah.
get ahead of
Yeah.
ourselves here.
Yeah.
So he's happy just to spin the wheels.
Keep turning, getting as bits of publicity that he can, and
What's quite ironic though is that the information about that letter only came out when the 13-hole punch card was sent, which law enforcement believed was probably a hoax. So, ironically, his threats of torture actually come out through somebody hoaxing or believing to be hoaxing a letter.
Mm-hmm.
I just found it quite amusing, really. That
it is amusing, mate. Yeah,
that's strange for sure.
But I think he learned from that obviously the cards garnered more interest from the press than actually the letters did.
Yeah, interaction.
Yeah. So that's probably why the Halloween card was sent, because his letter, his 6-7 page letter, whatever it was, hadn't been printed, but a small index card had been printed. So
and he addressed it directly to Paul Avery this time too, for maximum effect. Yeah. I'm surprised. I would have thought he'd include a piece of shirt in that, like they did in the movie, but it's pretty clear by now that he's obviously gotten rid of the shirt somewhere by now. Otherwise, I would have thought Avery would get a piece.
Agreed.
That would have been maximum shock value, wouldn't it? And I think he probably regretted getting rid of the shirt because these things just weren't being printed anymore. He probably thought, "Damn it! If I still had
I could have milked it. I could have
stuff,
milked it. Breadcrumbed it."
But like you said, Craig, the card,
I think at this point though, he's got no way of proving it's him either.
Yeah.
He's played all his cards.
Yeah.
He's
got one thing, mate. He did have one thing on his side that begins with S and ends with Herwood Moral. But
I see what you did there.
In the future,
as Craig was saying, so at this point, vaguely insinuated, Stussy Furlong, Ratatich even seems to react it to Salem, eventually Kathleen John. So it's like, and then of course
Lass as well, Donna Lass.
Riverside activity. He literally even has to complain. The reason why I'm writing to the Times is this: they don't bury me in the back page on the other. So he's literally said the complaint himself in that one. You know what I mean? And so the list kind of just keeps going on and on, as Craig was saying, at that point.
But this is where the Halloween card comes in. Now, I know a lot of people won't agree with this one, but Avery obviously released the information about the long little list letter that was released on the 20th of October by Avery. But the morning of, I think it was the morning of the 27th, when the Halloween card was sent, Paul Avery wrote an article in the Chronicle. That was the next article he wrote after the 12th, after the little list. Now this is the one Ross mentioned before. It was made of Jacqueline Truss. And the headline was San Francisco's Jack the Ripper, I think. Basically, it was a body that was found at Jackson and Laurel in Presidio, which I think was 2 blocks away from Paul Stein. It was referred to as a torture slaying, which obviously the little list letter was heavily focused on. She was found naked on a tree-lined street. She was tortured by fire. Her eyelids had been slit, and she'd been disemboweled, a skull fractured, and tied by the wrist. Now, I think a lot of that does seem like iconology that's in that Halloween card.
By rope, by knife, by fire.
Yeah, you've got a tree-lined street, you've got the tree in the Halloween cards, you've got the eyelids being slit, and you've got all the eyes with no lids.
Yep. Yep.
Seemingly, they've only got lashes, no
Good
lids. She'd been disemboweled, and you got the pumpkin in that area.
Yep.
She'd been tied by her wrists, and the skeleton is hanging from its wrists.
From its wrists. Yeah.
You know, I just think it's an interesting coincidence given what Avery had wrote about that day.
That's the most interesting analysis I've ever heard of the Halloween card. I mean, I know it's open to interpretation, but if your pattern is correct about the majority of his correspondence being reaction to pre-existing articles, I mean, that's almost uncanny. I mean, not perfect, but that's highly convincing. 100%. Highly convincing.
I just think it's because of that article that day.
Yeah.
And that card was sent in the afternoon, I think it was. I think it was sent in PM rather than AM.
Zodiac reading his morning paper, drinking his coffee, and then planning his douchebag day, so to speak.
Yeah. He's probably been looking for an inspiration like that, you know, for so long, and he sees it and thinks, right, that's it. I'm going to jump all over.
Especially with that old torture angle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because then that you know brings back into play that little list letter that they hadn't printed before, where he talked about torture.
Yeah.
He almost references back to that.
If I could interject with a question for you guys both, and I love where you're going, Craig. The plot of the Mikado is built around a law according to which those who flirt, leer, and wink without being connubially linked will be executed. Do you think it explains Zodiac's victimology? Asking for Dion and Craig's opinion.
It could do. Obviously, he is impacted by the Mikado in a lot of ways. Personally, for me personally, I think he might have been more influenced by someone like Marquis de Sade. Now, Marquis de Sade, he in one of his books, I think it's I forget the name of the exact book now, but in one of them, there's a quote where he says something to the effect of all people on the island of Borneo who die are reborn again in paradise to become slaves or something like that. And it was an interesting concept because Marquis de Sade, his name obviously means Sade. He was the one who the word sadism was originated from. And on October the 11th, the night Paul Stein was murdered, a movie about the life of Marquis de Sade was playing at the Golden Gate Playground Theatre. So it was well within the realms of possibility that Zodiac could have gone to see this play, and he had plenty of time after one of the showings there to go along and jump into Paul's taxi from there. And that sort of falls in with all the whole Paradise Slaves things too. That's just my personal belief on it. But yes, the Mikado could well be the influence for it. Yeah.
That's an amazing answer. Craig?
I'm not sure he really had a specific victim set in mind. I think it was just opportunity.
A little bit more random. Or hunting random.
Yeah, whatever he could find.
Yeah.
So
maybe even just location scouting and driving back and forth to Lake Herman, Blue Rock. Sometimes people are there, sometimes they aren't, and then that's more of the opportunity that.
But who knows? Who knows? We don't know. That's the problem. We're just like you said before. We know 1% of the information. So.
Exactly. And he did struggle, as we know, to try and find that identity, that uniqueness that he wanted to bring. He was getting influenced by so many different things. It just became a matter of nothing was original from him anymore, except for probably that debut of Zodiac Leader, where he says, this is the Zodiac. So that's probably the most original he ever was, as Craig demonstrated here. He was just so influenced.
Even that, you could argue, isn't Jack the Ripper maybe the first one to claim his own moniker? So
when you're in the Navy or on a plane or what have you, when they come over the intercom saying, this is your captain speaking, he could have got it from there. There's a number of places. Yeah.
The Batman comics, this is the Riddler, this is the Joker, this is the Batman. They all refer to themselves in the same.
Yeah.
And then you also... Go ahead,
Greg, you're good. Go ahead.
I was going to say with Batman, you also had was it the Zodiac crimes?
Yep. TV episode.
Yeah, where it featured a map, didn't it?
Yes.
Nice.
It was heavily featured on that. It just... And I think that was on not long before.
Mount Diablo.
If I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Very insinuative, yeah.
The trust thing, Craig. So if I'm not mistaken, there was 3 murders, and they had a suspect or an arrest.
There was 3 murders. They charged a suspect with the first 2, but he was never charged with the third. Was it Stanley Nelson? I think off the top of my head. Yeah, Stanley Nelson. It was. Yeah, Stanley Nelson. That was in 1973. But he was never charged with Jacqueline's murder. Personally, I don't think it was Zodiac. I think he was just taking credits.
But Jacqueline Trust, sorry boys to chip in here, Jacqueline Trust, is that still unsolved, is it? Officially unsolved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just not overly aware of the case here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was I think it was 3 prostitutes from Fillmore area that had been attacked, and they were getting worse with each attack. The mutilation was horrific. It was
just an escalation of violence.
Type of thing that would capture Zodiac's attention regardless.
Yeah. He was looking at the papers, we know that. Yeah. Sorry boys, I've just got to take a 5-minute stop. I'll be back in a minute.
Do you think, Matt, you can mute or however you need to? I can jump in with,
sorry boys.
Well, Holly, while the lad disappears, interesting, there's a Lover Lane foot trail along the southern boundary of the Presidio where the Zodiac would have entered if he actually did. Like, that's what I'm saying. Holly's Presidio knowledge is next level. I had no idea about that. So that's pretty insane. You can carry on, Craig, or unless you want to do questions for the chat, however you like.
Whatever, mate, whatever. We can do questions till Dion's back if you want.
Yeah. I guess I should do a little bit of framing. I should have did this right when Craig started. So when Lake Herman Road, just for background, my audience, and I know a lot of us are from, the Discord and they know the case, but for anybody in my audience that might not exactly know the granular details, after Lake Herman Road, Zodiac really doesn't take credit for the Lake Herman Road murders until after Blue Rock Springs, as Craig was saying. So before he, like we were just saying, the claiming of his own moniker, this is the Zodiac speaking, he's referred to in the, you obviously know this, Craig, in the media as like the Cipher Slayer or the Code Killer. Obviously, he's probably not a fan of that, much like when, like the Son of Sam was the 38 killer or whatever, then he comes out with, I'm the Son of Sam. So it seems to be the same thing. And then as Craig said, obviously starts writing letters, claims his own moniker, obviously makes the phone call to Nancy Slover at after Blue Rock Springs, excuse me. So I always just thought that it was interesting, Craig, of that gap there before he comes out. Oh, I made my own name and I'm going to be this, celebrity making in his own mind at that point, which seems to be the media narrative you're referring to.
Well, that's the always argument you can have against because people like to think that he does the crimes to get the attention.
Yeah.
So why didn't he do anything after Lake Herman Road? That's the argument you can always go back to.
Yep.
So
I mean, a lot of. I think it was either you or Dion that was telling me this, but I felt like the recovery, like Lake Herman Road, I think you guys said there was maybe a 1 week media run and then it kind of dried up. So you could make the argument maybe he didn't get the media response he thought. Oh, it was going to be this big deal. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, at least in the media circuit, it died out.
But it was over Christmas.
Yeah.
So, it was never going to, it was,
blow up the way he thought.
Horrible as it sounds,
Which is on that point, which is why I think that one is, as you were saying, the most random. He may have had those spots scoped out, in my opinion, maybe a hunter, just, speculating, but he may have had Lake Herman Road. And so also the 10th victim, that movie runs I think December, November, right before that. So he has all these little dumb ideas. He's driving around in the night, as Craig was saying. And then obviously we all know the Lake Herman Road timeline. It's very complicated, but sees the car there. And I don't know, as Craig was saying, it feels much more impulsive than all the other ones. He just had a bad day, or there's that car there. I'm gonna go pull up to that car, and I guess if he has his gun on him, kind of see what happens. I know the timeline's a mess. We could discuss it later if we care to. Just from a Lake Herman Road perspective. Welcome back, D. Carry on, Craig.
Hey, boys.
So it was 2 weeks later that the Riverside article came out.
Yep.
After the Halloween card, Avery. And obviously, you think what you want about Riverside.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's more elusive than normal.
Yeah, no details.
Riverside activity.
Yeah.
What's
that?
One of the dumbest things he said.
Well, but I don't know if you want to go into Sherry Joe Bates.
I mean, I think I know where Dion's at on it, because that's pretty much how I met Dion. Let's just get your perspective, Craig. He's obviously slow boat to China letter, Phil Sins. He's obviously responding to this Avery article. I'll just ask you. I mean, you guys have seen my episode, I assume. What's your take on it, Craig?
Yeah.
The Cherry Joe Bates mystery.
It was personal. It was a personal attack.
A local stalker, in other words.
I think chances are it was somebody she knew.
Yeah.
Personally, the fact that from the body position, it's quite evident that she was killed on her back and then rolled over onto her foot when she was dead.
Mm.
Which in my mind, it's somebody who doesn't want to look at what they've done.
Mm.
Which
I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay, so
somebody,
challenge question. Somebody she knew, also the Zodiac, putting Zodiac in Southern California. Obviously, you guys know what I think, but just, is that even a possibility that,
It's a possibility, but I don't.
Lower probability.
I personally, my view is that I don't think it was Zodiac.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I just don't think it was.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. You guys know where I landed on it. All beer glasses, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeves in the Teespring. Go check it out. PXF is the #1 on the internet. Anyway, go ahead, Craig.
You should have sent me a label earlier. I could have had it on my water bottle. But yeah, that's all good, mate.
PXF water bottles, man. I'm missing out on branding.
Good quality New Zealand water, mate. Southwest Pacific.
There we go. PXF's taking over. But no, I agree with Craig. I mean, I just don't think there's enough at this point. I think we need more. Well, since we brought this topic up, the recent announcement on PXF Shorts, Kenneth Main says that he has Sherry Joe Bates' DNA sample. He tested it versus Gary Francis Post. It was a fail. Shout out to the case breakers. Druser says he doesn't even think it's a good sample. Do you guys think that law enforcement has Sherry's killer's DNA or Ken Main's?
Talk about a hand grenade of a question.
You know what show you're on, dude.
I don't think anyone in the amateur environment can say either way what they have or what they don't have. I feel confident that there has to be some kind of DNA in that case. Unlike Zodiac, I'm not so confident with that one, but
yeah,
Riverside, surely there's something there. It just blows me away that they had these hairs at the base of her thumb that were found there. They tested them against BB in 1999, 2000 when they got him back into the country. And then when they didn't match him, they come out years later saying, but we don't even know if they're actually from the killer.
Or accomplice. Not only that, or maybe he had an accomplice. You know what I mean? The best one I've heard is like, maybe it was Sherry's hair. Well, it's brown. And she's
it can't be. It can't be Sherry's hair, because on the friggin' report, it actually lists Sherry's hair as one of the test samples. And it's
people always ask that. See, this is why we need Dion, and Dion is one of the better guys in the community. He's just too humble to fit in with the internet. But without this dude, we would just spin our wheels, and everybody would constantly ask me, "Hey Ross, did they test Sherry's hair?" I'm like, dude, I'm not a forensic scientist, and obviously that's a pretty obvious angle. Second of all, the degraded DNA under her fingers is a Caucasian male. So when people bring up this, like, maybe it was Cleophas Martin because he had a knife crime for whenever, I'm like, did he magically turn into a Caucasian male before the crime, or where are we going with this thing? But anyway, I don't want us to get
just the lazy answers. I'm pretty sure the material they found underneath her fingernails was too degraded to be of any use as far as DNA goes. And I think it was a similar story for the cigarette butt that was found near the scene. There was, as you guys will probably know, there was a guy seen near the scene smoking, and they picked up the butt. And I think there was only a tiny, minuscule amount, so it wasn't enough. In those days, technology, of course. Right. Now, as we know, the technology gets better with year, so I don't know where they're at with that yet. So,
LOL.
Well,
Go ahead, Greg.
I think, to be fair, Drew's would know better than most people about the DNA because on the Citizen Detective, he does work with, is it Susan?
Susanna Ryan,
Okay.
yeah.
Susanna Ryan, yeah.
She's worked on both Sherry Joe Bates and Ray Davis, which I do want to talk to you guys about later.
Yeah, I think was she the lady that was on the Hunt for the Zodiac on the History Channel doing the testing then?
It's
was
been
it the
so
same
long
lady?
since I saw that. I can't.
Yeah, I think it might have been the same lady actually that was testing a series.
I know she's done a lot of
Yeah.
TV. Yeah,
With the
I think
NVAC.
it was her. I think
Yeah.
she said it. She did the
Pretty sure it
in-depth deep dive with Morph on Zodiac speaking. I
Yeah.
think they covered that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Same lady, I think. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. So obviously, I think Andrew and Morph would probably know a bit better than we.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can
great.
speculate
Yeah,
on.
Yeah, we're just spitballing.
As
But,
far as that
so-
goes, yeah.
Yeah, so I tend to take Drew's word on that one, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're talking to people that have actually worked with that evidence, then yeah, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah,
100%. But yeah, I don't really have much else to add on Riverside. I'm kind of, you guys know where I'm at, so feel free to.
Oh,
carry on.
you were saying about how Ken Mains tested against Post, and just relating that to Zodiac, I did a Freedom of Information Act request on Gary Post to the FBI, and guess what they sent me back? 5/8 of jack. Yeah. Honestly,
I don't think
claims they're making.
I think he's out for Riverside, and I don't think there's much on him overall, to be honest. That's my take.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, I think they're making a big hoo-hoo out of nothing, just like, which is the way it seems to be in this community. For so
It's
many
just
people.
irresponsible. Well, what I've been saying is like, hey, if you're one of these groups that doesn't know the case, obviously like the case breakers, you don't need to throw Sherry Joe Bates and Donna Lass and Kathleen Johns at us. You can actually just start with the canonicals and work your way back from there. You know what I mean? It's not rocket science. You guys know this. You've been on it probably longer than me.
Yeah. Opportunity, means, and motive.
Yeah.
Just give me that.
And let's not forget, Colbert is a TV media guy. You know, no disrespect. He got the DB Cooper files released with the FOIA. That's great, but stick to what you're good at, bro. Anyway,
respect
go on,
where
Craig.
it's due, but just don't stick your neck out too far, mate. You know.
Exactly. They just do. Everyone does too much. You know.
There's enough dirt thrown on the facts in this case. We don't need a heck of a lot more.
100%. 100%.
Definitely.
Both of these suspects suck. I don't even want to go into Richard Hoffman. I've seen nothing there.
No.
If Jay Foy wants to come up and have the conversation on Zodiac Files, the live show, he's done other YouTube channels. I just don't think a lot of these guys want to come on with somebody who knows the case. You know what I mean?
I'm sorry, but if you took all of the worst suspects in the room and put them all into their separate room, Hoffman would be the worst suspect in that room. Sorry.
Metaphor ever. Carry on, Craig.
Definitely.
Yeah, I don't. Unless you guys have any more to add on Post or whatever.
No.
Well, Hoffman couldn't have done Riverside for a start.
Yeah, right.
Couldn't have done it.
Well, since you brought that up, Maine's
Couldn't have done Blue Rock Springs either, but that's
Well, no, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But let's bring up Maine's made Jay Foy the offer. He said he'll test Jay Foy's DNA versus the Sherry killer. So since you guys think that RH is written on the desk poem, what a smoking gun. Well, let's do the test, Jay Foy. Let's see it. You know,
bring it.
Put your money where your mouth is.
Put your evidence where your mouth is. It's simple as
exactly.
Yeah, but he won't do that. That won't get done, will it?
Well, the Netflix, the Netflix would get shut down, right? So it would be another.
Exactly. The evidence tends to
against
kill really cool book and documentary deals. That's the problem. Is the facts tend to kill those.
Yeah.
So,
okay. You can go to the next one, Craig.
Obviously, the next one's the LA Times letter on the 13th of March. With the Riverside. But the interesting thing is, less than a week, well, about a week before he sends that letter, there are reports in the LA Times about Linda Keynes. She had been murdered in the Lake Berryessa area. She was from PUC College. She'd been found in a shallow grave. And it wasn't in many papers, but I think it was on the front page of the LA Times. And they speculated on whether Zodiac was the murderer. And then obviously a few days later, he sends the letter to the LA Times saying, "You don't bury me on the back page."
Direct response. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
man, honestly, that gives more credence to it less being taking credit for Sherry and more to just a direct response to that article, as Craig said, in my mind.
Yeah.
And
then he's just chucking the Riverside thing in there anyway.
Yeah. Well, they mentioned it,
just-
so I'm responding,
I'll chuck that in there.
But one thing I'd like to know, was he following the LA Times before all this Riverside stuff came about, or did he only start following the LA Times after? Because he never mentions them before all this stuff. He's got the Napa Valley Register, the Chronicle, the Examiner, the LA Times Herald, the Oakland Tribune, all of these ones that are centralized in the Bay Area. And it's only when the Riverside thing's brought up he starts, quoting things from the LA Times, Craig. That's interesting.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I'm not against the possibility that he subscribes to all of them. I know that's kind of like Richard's angle. He had the quote from like that way back older quote, like how could Zodiac have pulled that? He would have had to go back through the microfiche and read the backlog of all the old articles. I mean, I totally picture Zodiac spending his time that way, just having stacks of newspapers around it or being some kind of weird collector because there's just so many references.
I think he had scrapbooks, and I think he had plenty of them, and I think he lived a lot of his dreams and lives through them.
100%.
We're talking earlier about relating back to newspaper articles. One of the ones we missed about Lake Herman Road was the quote in the debut letter about silhouettes on the horizon. And that was a direct quote from the newspaper as well. And in that letter, he says, the police were wondering how I shot my victims, blah, blah, blah. And they were insinuating that I could see silhouettes. And on the 28th of December, 1968, the 23rd, 3 days after Lake Herman Road, there was an article came out where Lundblad was quoted as saying, we think, they were trying to figure out how he shot his victims in the dark. And we think he could see silhouettes, And to me, there's only two possible options here. Either he's got a freaking photographic memory and he remembered that obscure article 3 days afterwards to reference it, or he's got a scrapbook.
Or he's saving them.
Yeah, saving the
or scrapbooks, plural. I think he had a few of them, but
It's same with the price tag, and the price tag on my head. It was virtually the exact same that was in the article.
Yeah.
And it was over a year later.
100%.
He quickly references these things, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a good point from Holly there too about subscribing to many newspapers. I think.
Yeah, I think it was all over the place because even the Montana thing, like the escaped prisoners, like it was super seemingly random. So anyway,
and we still can't find a source for a Bay Area article about that escape that happened a few days before Berryessa. As far as I know myself, I've only seen it referred to in the Montana papers. Montana, how do you pronounce that? Sorry, I'm a Kiwi.
I can barely
but you could have the argument, is it, dear Lodge?
Yeah,
right.
Because originally it was feathers.
I love that because he said Hartnell said Fern something, and then dude said Deer Lodge. Who said Deer Lodge. So like,
and it's been said, Brian never actually specifically mentions it in the report, but that's not to say he hasn't mentioned it before. I tend to think that maybe he did suggest something like that, but that it was something he'd like. And what Craig has demonstrated here today is that Zodiac took so much of his stuff from newspaper articles. I think we could almost assume that he's taken that from one as well.
Agreed.
So,
Agreed.
Yeah.
And
the other thing too is that prison escape that happened that week. I did a wee bit of digging, and there was actually an article. I'll see if I can pull it up soon. I think it was about July or August. There was an article in one of the Montana papers where the Deer Lodge prison were bragging about how good they were at stopping escapees and about how everyone that had escaped from that prison had been caught, and the warden was up there saying, look at us, no one's escaping from our prison. And this wasn't that too long before all of this happened, so maybe that was another Zodiac thing to say, look, these guys thought no one could escape from their prison, I'll tell these guys I escaped from that prison. Just a Zodiac thing.
Quick follow-up, D, when the prisoners escaped, was a guard killed, like the way Zodiac said, like I killed him? Okay,
no.
So
the only reference I can find to that is an escape in 1959 where two guys escaped and one of the wardens was shot and killed. But the thing is, the two guys, they ended up dying by suicide basically after that. So it wasn't really a mystery. But there may have been a throwback to that as well. He may have just been putting stories together and building one in his own mind, combining all of these previous stories. He didn't necessarily have to follow one, he could have combined them all into to make his own narrative.
Yep.
You know.
Yep, that's what I
which
mean.
is what I think he's done in his Zodiac persona in general. He's just thrown together a whole lot of influences and said, "This is me." Yeah.
It's the perfect puzzle, or imperfect, depending on how.
Yeah.
What do we got next, Craig?
Well, the Linda Keynes, that was solved just 4 days later. After he sent a letter to the LA Times,
Fast
4
one.
days later it was solved.
Bummer.
Dummy.
So again, is that possibly why I didn't write for 2.5 years?
Could be. Or it could explain the Pines card. If you believe the Pines card is genuine, that turned up just a couple of days after that. So, yeah. If you believe it's genuine, of course.
Well, I've skipped over those.
Conveniently.
Shall we continue? We'll just skip over that one, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not enough there.
I agree. Just real quick.
To question it.
I'm all over the place on the later correspondence, but I think the Pine cards tends to be accurate. Just, Richard's, I'd send people to zodiacciphers.com. Richard's just deconstruction. But again, I haven't even gotten to it in my research yet, so we can.
How does he spell victim on that card? We were talking before about how Zodiac spells victim, V-I-C-T-O-M, in all of his previous correspondences. On that card, he spells it V-I-C-T-I-M, the proper way that it's supposed to be.
He got spell checked 5 years later.
But the thing is, though, like it's a newspaper cutout, but it's not all one word. He didn't just cut out the word victim out of the newspaper. He cut out individual characters. So he was spelling it the right way. Whereas in previous letters, he'd always written it victim. Why did he change
it? Deliberately. Yeah, it was deliberate.
Yeah.
That to me is just a red flag. Sorry.
I couldn't agree more, mate.
These misspellings, I look at some of these misspellings as identifying factors and little references. And that's just one I look for. And the way the victim spelled there. But sorry, I'm rambling now. So let's move on.
No. You're good. You're good.
No, well, enough. Going back to that, another one is the S, and then the next letter after it, start of a word. If you remember, the trait Zodiac did when he's in his writing, he always, when he wrote the letter S at the start of a word, the next letter was always higher.
Always higher. Yeah, that's always right. That's something you pointed out when we were doing our alphabet research. That's very, very noticeable. Yeah.
Yeah, when you actually look for it, you'll see it. I think you worked out, was it 95% of the time he did it?
Yeah, he did it. And so you could basically classify that as a colloquial trait that he has within his handwriting. Yeah.
For sure.
It's very unique. Yeah. And when you compare that with samples of other people's handwritings, you can identify the differences and traits that way. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Can't hide that sort of stuff, mate. You cannot consciously hide that sort of
stuff. Yeah, it's subconscious trait. Yeah.
So the subconscious trait, like, that's a rebuttal to people that say, like, well, he was writing on speed, he was writing drunk, he was writing on LSD, but yet you do have those consistencies. So even if he had these massive amounts of substances in his system, things like that remain consistent for the most part.
Some elements you can hide, some elements you can disguise, some you just simply can't. And as the experts say, and I've spoken to a few handwriting experts, and they all universally agree that basically for somebody to completely obstruct their handwriting over a long series of communications is extremely rare. And I'm not saying it's impossible, because Zodiac did have a lot of investment and a lot of time, obviously, to do this stuff, but it's just unlikely. These traits are inbuilt into our system from a very young age. And yes, some things you can change, others, no.
It's almost like you're saying the more writing you send, the less possible it's going to be to come.
100%. That is exactly what I'm saying. That's what I've been told.
Your natural traits are going to come out over time.
Going to seep out.
Yeah.
What have we got next, Craig?
So 74. Fast forwarding. On the 12th of January, there's reports of a possible phone call to San Francisco police and various news outlets where a man claimed to be Zodiac and he'd killed a woman and placed a church in Daly City. That was on the 12th of January. On the 24th, there was another rumour that Zodiac had sent a letter to a St. Helena newspaper and that had been handed to Napa PD.
Right.
So, you know, within the space of 2.5 weeks, after all this silence, you've had 2 rumours coming out of a phone call and a letter being sent.
Yep.
This is 5 days before the Exorcist letter. This is.
Interesting.
So on the 27th, the Sacramento Bee ran the Sherwood Moral article about Zodiac's handwriting. Now, the one thing I think about that article is there's one line in there when Morrow's talking about graphology, he mentions about the dotting of I's.
Yeah.
When you look at that Exorcist card, the different ways the I's are dotted, I just can't see any other.
Very accentuated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Explanation.
He's obviously
That's the
replying. Yeah, he's obviously replying to that letter, in my mind anyway.
The pattern. I saw what you wrote, and I'm, yeah.
So I'm going to show you. I've got one here with, fully filled in, one with a little tail on, one that's just a circle with no filling in.
Yeah.
Just how many different ways can I do an O?
Yeah.
Top of an R.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah.
No.
And yet his common traits still show through in that letter, like where he crosses his T's is still in the same place, and all the diametric placement is all diacritic placement's all the same. Yeah, he can't hide it.
Yeah, great explanation for that. Yeah, I agree.
And I think perhaps that could explain the echo arose from the suicide grave quote, because everything had been quiet in 73. There'd not been a great deal of news at all. And then in 74, you've got rumours of a phone call, rumours of a letter being sent. So is he insinuating that he's rising from the grave as such? Or is he showing that he's finished?
Well, consider
is the
for a
suicide
moment,
his persona?
Consider he didn't actually call himself the Zodiac Killer in this letter, and I think that might be a bit of a pulse turner.
Yeah.
So good point, Craig. Yeah,
I agree.
Yep.
So obviously, well, he's going to the using current affairs to get attention by using The Exorcist. He knew it was front page news. He knew it was on people's lips, and so he just chucks it in there. But like you said, he's obviously taking a mitt with this satirical comedy, swapping him over. That's intentional. That's intentional.
Yeah,
definitely.
100%. Yeah,
definitely.
Obviously, fairly confident that he was going to get it authenticated too. He didn't call himself Zodiac, but they had no problem concluding that it was from him. Yeah. And it's quite interesting, that. Yeah.
That's a whole rabbit hole within itself, because when you get to Badlands and all this later stuff, what is authenticated, what isn't, obviously the whole 78 debacle. It's very, and Dion's brought up Sherwood Moral a couple times. Quite a bit of inconsistency with all the disagreement among the handwriting analysis.
Not really. I don't think there's that much confusion at all. There's only really one person that the confusion surrounds. Everyone else seems to be in sync with all of these conclusions. So it's only really one person who's actually at odds. If we're really being pragmatic about it, but I don't want to expand on that too much here.
Yeah, I could agree.
The SLA letter, I don't know what to make of that.
I think Richard found the best stuff, so
I agree.
I have 2 threads in my email, one from Mike Rodelli with his angle, and the rebuttals from Richard with everything that he found, and he thinks it's related to the person that has the the Norwegian ancestry, one of the people involved in that. So I mean, of course you guys have seen the articles on Zodiac Cipher. I agree. I used to think oh wow, Slay, that's up Zodiac, me just kind of not extrapolating the things the way you all have on surface level, but then once Richard started sending me the material, I'm like, I started to break, I'm like, all right, now I'm confused, so.
And it's also the only letter where cursive is used. When writes slaw, it's not block capitals, not block letters.
Right.
How many times does Zodiac do that?
That's right.
Point.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
So
no, I agree with Richard's assessment of that, and also the handwriting. When I looked at that and compared it to the resource that I created, no, it's just not the same ballpark. Yeah,
sure.
Right. Here we go. Badlands card. Now, I think this ties into the Red Phantom letter. I know Dion and Ross know where I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
Before, people have mentioned the Freeway Phantom. Now, obviously, that was in 1971. He actually made one of the victims write a note, and it was found on a body, which was found. Now, I think some of the phrasing within that note is quite interesting compared to the Badlands card.
See if I can find it and bring it up.
Oh yeah, if there's any graphics we want to share, of course, guys.
I've actually got that note here somewhere, mate. I'm just sort of looking for it. I'll see if I can bring it up. I'm sure I saved it there somewhere. Craig,
I know nothing about this, Craig. So this is unsolved, or did they find a suspect for this?
No, the Freeway Phantom. I'm sure it's unsolved. It's an unsolved case, but
I can't find it there. I must have put it somewhere. Yeah.
Well, the phraseology in the Freeway Phantom note was, "This is tantamount to my insensitivity to the people, especially women." Now, obviously, you've got the Badlands card where it says public sensibilities.
Yep.
Which is quite similar to insensitivity to the people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which you know, this is a note done by the Freeway Phantom. Well, done by the girl. Now, I find it interesting that the next letter he sends he refers to himself as the Phantom. So you've got these two letters. One's got the similar wording in it to this Freeway Phantom note, and then the next letter he's called himself a Phantom. It's just
so we're talking. Do we have multiple references here? Or are we talking about Count Marco, Red Phantom, Red with Rage, or is that a
yeah, which is obviously the next letter after the Badlands.
Yeah,
and the Badlands is where he uses the similar phrasing to the Freeway Phantom's note.
Yep.
So I just
amazing connection from you.
It's an interesting tie-in, anyway. Yeah, and he says, "Catch me if you can."
It reminds me of Frank Ednagale Jr., another one who liked to embellish things, but yeah.
What is the location of this Freeway Phantom?
Washington, I think it was.
Okay.
I think it was Washington area.
You know the whole thing with the Santa Rosa hitchhiker murders. That sure you guys have seen that report where it extends from Northern California to Washington and Oregon, right? So it brings up more. And then of course people asked us in the chat about the Eureka card. I know you've already stated your opinion, but you guys know me. I'm always looking for more non-canonicals. So if it's unsolved, like again, I can't outright reject Zodiac because what I thought, this is totally changing my mind, Craig, but what I thought you were referring to was the Sacramento freeway murders. Of course, we have that thing in '86 with the later.
Sorry, boys, just shared that graphic of that note. Of the freeway.
Yeah, I got you. Yep. Boom.
Yep.
So we're on the side now. This is tantamount to my insensitivity to people, especially women. I will admit to others when you catch me if you can. Now, Marco, has the, misogynistic whatever that the Red Phantom is complaining about, similar reference to women, if I'm not mistaken, Greg.
Yeah, well, it's the insensitivity to people as well.
Yep.
And obviously the Badlands public sensibilities. It's quite,
Yeah.
Similar.
Very insinuative, isn't it?
I'm into the Phantom stuff, and then obviously people brought up, the Texarkana Phantom, you know what I mean? So it's like it seems to be playing around with whatever words or Phantom references.
Well, that Phantom letter obviously was replying to the Count Marco column he did a few days before.
Yeah.
I think it was 3 days before, where he talks about I can't remember the exact wording now, but he's talking about shrinks and psychology. And he's almost paraphrasing it in that Red Phantom letter. He's paraphrasing what's said in that article. So
amazing how his spelling really improves in that letter too, isn't it?
Badlands is like he's like a genius as opposed to when he couldn't spell 3 or 4 letter words like several letters before. You know,
he's not the Zodiac anymore, is he? He's someone else. So
he's back to his smart self.
He's back to whoever the dumbass was before. I am the artist formerly known as Zodiac. Now I'm just known as Dumbass.
100%. But no, I really want to deep dive. Like, I'd like to have Rich on and just go through some of that later correspondence because the Badlands is super interesting. You know, of course, Rich did the thing with Vanishing Point and Rampage. Then there's the car. I watched the car, and then of course I haven't watched Badlands yet, but I'm hoping to do that for my my movie series. They're asking if you're selling shirts, Dion. What you got? Perfect Circle on, or what are you wearing?
Oh, yeah, it's Perfect Circle. Sorry, I know everyone wants
people
to
were questioning, like, as if like they don't know who Maynard's other band is.
Oh, okay. Well, that's Maynard's other band, mate. Yeah,
it's a side
not
project.
Doing wine tours and doing the rest of the Fine 9 gig. Yeah, that's what he's up to. I don't think he's been involved with that project for a while though. So.
If you haven't heard of Tool, we can't help you guys. I'm just going to do quickly. Ross, what do you think about the motorcycle patches recently shown? So I don't really address things like this on air. This got emailed to me months and months ago. I never addressed it because I don't care. What I think is most likely it's from after the Exorcist card. So if we can't prove that it came before it, then those motorcycle. But the person who emailed it to me, it's a source I cannot identify, said, "Hey, Ross, it's this guy. This is the Zodiac," just like many of the emails I receive. And usually when that comes across my inbox, I don't spend a whole lot of time extrapolating it. Please move on, Craig.
I'm done. We're finished.
Oh, okay, excellent. Well, okay, that's okay. So, Larry, I'll do the Ross. I'm going to pretentiously refer to the full circle theory as the Ross Geraci full circle theory.
The perfect circle theory. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
I wore the shirt for a reason, lads.
Literally perfect. So, I'm going to do my thing. So, random taxi driver. So, like Larry Hargis. Right, he's another taxi driver that shot randomly. I just want to get you guys' interpretation of, like, obviously we talked about victimology, we talked about Paul Stein of breaking from the so-called pattern. Ray Davis parallels. Do any of you guys like or see the Ray Davis parallels with the Paul Stein crime? Of course, the phone calls in Oceanside. Maybe you first, Dion. I know you know a little bit about it.
You can't ignore the similarities, and I keep my mind open on it. And while I don't believe personally that Zodiac himself was responsible for Oceanside, it's impossible to sit here and not think that he wasn't influenced by it, in some form of capacity, or at least knew about it. Right. There's just so many similarities there. But again, with Zodiac and his penchant for being influenced by other things and having, I just think that's more likely the case here. But hey, if it turns out that he was responsible for Ray Davis, it wouldn't surprise me.
What do you think, Craig? I mean, I'm sure you've read up a little bit on the non-cons, right?
There is quite a few similarities there. But the one stumbling block I have with it is that he would have tried to take credit for it. I think it'd have been too good an opportunity for him not to.
Good point.
He's putting his name in all these other crimes.
There's a hell of a lot more down there. Is that not taking credit for Oceanside, San Diego?
In general, it is. But if they'd never thrown Sherry Joe Bates at him, then he might not have ever acknowledged it.
I agree. I don't know. You guys know where kind of I'm at on it. So Susanna did work on the Davis case. I'm always because he's supposedly the killer of Davis. Grabbed his belt loops when he dumped the body, or grabbed his belt. So I'm always wondering why we can't get. So I mean, just to give everyone some background, I've mentioned this before, but the reason why I got stuck so on the non-cons is because evidence-wise, we didn't really get very far with the canonical. So I'm always thinking if we could get some link, and I'll take any of them. Ray Davis. I mean, I'm kind of low on Sherry, but I'd still take it just to get us forward progress. But, Gaviota, I think, is more promising because they say they have all of this unreleased evidence. So I think there could be uncharted territory there. Davis.
Bill Baker thinks it was Zodiac. So, yeah.
Yeah, Davis and the Swindles. So that's what I'm thinking. Like, if we have the touch DNA from Davis, it would be nice. Even if maybe two of the non-canons connected to each other, it would be a nice, pattern formulating. But anyway, that's just kind of where I'm at. Not to say that I'm just waiting for something to pan out here, gents. I know you guys have been researching longer than me, so I'd love to hit something,
Yeah. Hopefully one day. Something's got to give. The amount of material that's there, sooner or later.
I never showed this on air before. Let me see if I can find it. I do believe I have. I got it. It's very small, so I'll try to zoom in on it. I don't know if I'm. Anyway, I think this is. Not sure what the policy on this is, but I don't think it's a big deal if I show it. It's no smoking gun, boys. You know where we're at on this case. We haven't moved in a while.
Also, mate,
so share. Can I do window right here? So this is what I got us on Gaviota Beach, guys. This is my big smoking gun breakthrough.
I'll have to try.
This is a response to my FOIA case. The case you requested is still being investigated. It's an ongoing investigation. I recently confirmed the status through our detective bureau. The records are therefore exempt to California government code. That's what I got back, boys. That's my big breakthrough on Gaviota Beach. So they were not going to give me anything. That's the cold cases detective response.
Open case, mate. Yeah.
I should 63, man. I should reply back and be like, "Can you give me a hint on what all that unreleased evidence is, sir?" I'm a YouTuber. I'm super important, bro. But it's not panning out.
Use all that pull you've got, Ross. You'll be right, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. With all the pull I have, you think this would be open shut? You're who from what channel? Haven't heard
from
of you.
Who from where? Yeah. Oh,
so
goodness me.
That's right. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, man. I wanted something, I've invited Averett on the show even to do a quick, 20, 30 minutes, whatever he can spare. I'd like to talk to him just because he knew Bobby personally from the football team. I know he did watch my episode 4. So that's kind of where I'm at. Looking forward to getting you guys episode 5 and episode 6 soon, but it's going to take a little bit of travel to get those done. So you guys should know where I'm headed. Yeah. But no, thank you very much, Craig. That was awesome, man. Really like your research. I think you made some awesome extrapolations. And of course, I think Richard thinks highly of your stuff. He's mentioned it many times. Dion, been trying to get him on all the time. I won't, like I said, Dion and Nick, when I have questions, I've always asked them. I won't put Nick's name out there if it's not public, but offers always open for Dion and Nick to do a ZAP super show, or if Craig wants to join you guys, you know what I mean? Always a open here. Shout out to everybody who came through the chat. Of course, Holly. Looking forward to get Holly back to finish her research next week. That's going to be the 12th, and we'll do some Lake Berryessa, Presidio Heights. I feel like I had something else on PH on you guys, but I think it was just the Davis thing. So I don't know. Any closing thoughts? They're asking for you to get on the Discord, Dion, if you're on there, or if you have any interest, or that's what they're asking for from you.
Okay.
He'll consider it.
I don't get it much, but I'll make an effort to.
He'll consider it. Dion's awesome. I heard he organized a lot of papers for the Zodiac case. Yes, he did. Yeah. I would be useless without him. And yeah, I don't know. Any other closing thoughts or anything else you guys are looking for? I heard there's a big crazy Netflix documentary coming out, so look out for that.
Oh yeah, we're all looking forward to that. We really are, aren't we?
Craig just said no, thank you.
Not for me. No
more grace.
We really need more garbage thrown on the facts. That's what we need.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I just realized something. If you guys aren't in the States, aren't you safe from not having to watch that piece of crap? So you guys are fine.
I tell everyone they all want to move over here.
Don't let them add it to Netflix UK.
There's trailers on UK for it.
There's way around it. Damn it! So they might UK release, but Dion's possibly safe. Yeah, we won't tell him about New Zealand.
Somehow it'll get blown. It'll darken my doorstep. Don't worry about that, Ross. They always do. You can't hide from that, even all the way out here, 7,000 miles into the Pacific Ocean, mate.
I'm barely bearable, but shout out to everybody who came through the chat. Holly, Sose, Altug, Fire Pixie, thanks for the modding.
Nice to meet everyone. Yeah.
No trolls today. I'm surprised, but I must be doing something wrong.
Oh,
I need more subs. I need more subs, but yeah, click the join button for membership. Check the Patreon, and I'll be doing my movie stuff. Whatever else you guys come up with, you want to come back and cover different topics. I definitely want to do LB and PH with Holly, and keep it rolling. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. At some stage, it may not necessarily be Nick. He's eased himself out of the community now for understandable reasons. But at some stage, we might come on and do a ZAP interview. That'll be into the future. We've actually got a couple of people, or Helen actually more specifically, working on a public-based site for all that information. So once we're a bit closer to launching that, we might look at doing something through your channel, Ross. Yeah. A lot of the research is behind the scenes, guys. So I try to get these guys on and leak what we can when we can. Dion's One Killer Theory essay, it's in the link below in the description. Go check that out. I think you did an excellent job, and I guess we could go out on that, guys, because we've been on for like 2 hours. But people go out of control with 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. I've been told that as Zodiac was walking down to Brian and Cecilia, the Manson girls were dancing alongside next to him. So I've heard literally every theory that you could possibly name. And I still kind of fall in line with Dion that it's most likely, one person cited at BRS, one person cited at LB and PH. Now the letters, that could be another story. There could be more involvement with the letters, but that's as far as I can. Well, I will just mention though, we do have a little bit of a forensic link. There's an FBI document that clearly states that the SFPD inspector from the lab there, Billy Hamlet, found a similarity between the left ring latent found on the Paul Stein taxi cab door and the left ring finger latent found on the little list letter, and they found that in July 1970. Unfortunately, when they submitted that information to the FBI, we haven't got the FBI's conclusion on that, but that is that's the only link we've got between crime scene and letters forensically, is that similarity in the fingerprints. And again, it's come about because the quality of the latent aren't that good. They're good enough only for inclusion and not identification per se, but it's very sort of I don't know how you'd put it, but it just kind of insinuates that the print evidence is good between scenes and communications. There's just so much we don't know. So
no, that's really good. I mean, I think that's the best explanation we've got at the current point, like you said, of solving a mystery with 1% of the data, which is what we have.
I did actually make moves to try and contact Billy Hamlet to get his side of the story, but sadly he passed away only 6 months after that report was made. So unfortunately, another, excuse the pun, but another dead end. And so like so many things in this case, you think you're getting somewhere with a bit of information, and then just
So the whole Mike Rodelli thing with the back and forth with the DNA guy, who I'm sure Dion knows his name, tells him he can't remember which one was authenticated between Exorcist and 78. So I'll put the question to both of you guys. The link
Keel, wasn't it?
Yeah, Keel. So the sample from 78, which is what they tell us that the only DNA samples from a non-authenticated letter. And it does, you know what I mean? Like, what do you guys make of all?
He's basing that off the an SFPD report that I think Tom got hold of a few years ago, and how much we can actually read into that report, I'm not really sure. All I know is that the handwriting on that 1974 Exorcist letter matches all the rest of the Zodiac handwriting. The handwriting on the 1978 letter does not, and that's basically all I can say about it. I don't know anything about the DNA side of things. Mike knows a hell of a lot more.
And then the front, well, I think
to him about that.
I don't know what your take is, Craig, but the crux of it, right, is it's the front of the stamp sampled, and of course the hair will bring up the hair, but it could be from literally anybody, like a mailman or whatever, and then Voight comes out with it can't be the Zodiac thing, right? Like non-Caucasian or non-male or whatever that means, you know what I mean? So that
you can't believe that they try and check for DNA on the outside of a stamp. I just
if that's from the TV show thing, Drew Beeson was saying that like the tech like had her hair out with no mask and like handled it, I think barehanded. So that I don't know if she had gloves on. Maybe
I think it's well established now that show was literally all for show.
There's just that's my, and then what do you guys make? I'm looking forward to asking Holly about this because I haven't got her opinion, but Toski, supposedly wrote those other letters. So the whole Toski investigation of him forging that, I never bought that. I think it's pretty unrealistic. Do you guys have any here or there on it? Or no comment?
Let's just say those issues might just get addressed in the future. That's all I'm going to say with that for now, Ross. Those issues are going to get addressed by some people that are collaborating to address those issues. How political does that sound?
It sounds really good. Dion for president.
Hey, I'll give you all free beer every day. No worries at all.
Dude, has my vote. But no comment, Craig?
Sweet.
What he said.
Yeah, perfect.
Put it this way. I don't believe for a New York minute that Dave Toski wrote that 1978 letter.
That's where I've always been. That's where I've always been.
I've got someone in mind for it. And as I said, I've probably said too much already. We'll address that in the future.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to have you guys on it because, like, you know, I see people go in super hard. Like, I think it's this way and I think it's that way. And I'm like, what are you going? Now, obviously, we know Sherwood was obviously offended by that. And that's kind of why he backed out. You know, we all know that. So there's a little bit of politics there. But, Craigle. They got you on your glasses, bud.
Oh, they got you, mate.
When you had your hair long, did you have a
crew cut?
It certainly can't with me.
A crew cut, exactly, bro. Hey, welcome to the Zodiac Files, man. We solve the crime every week on this show, baby.
I was going to find your name in the code somewhere.
There you go.
Wait, he's in disguise.
Where'd he go? Now.
He's in disguise. Where'd he go? That's how he looks.
We've got John Cena in the chat.
That's how
no fingerprints.
All right, this is
fingerprints up.
Airplane glue, baby. I see some model airplanes in his background. He's in his death machine basement, a basement bomber.
Sorry, I can't come. My hands are stuck to the taxi cab.
This has devolved into a usual PXF show. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you guys. Dion Walker, Craig Rhodes, amazing research, guys. I was super impressed. Anytime you want to come back, just reach out to me. Holly next week, and this is an awesome show, man. I really enjoyed it, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Great show, boys. All right.
Thank you.
Hit me up in the chat, guys. Craig was awesome. Dion's my man. These guys are great, man. That was an awesome show. Great research. I learned a lot from those guys. Shout out to everybody who came through. Thank you, Archangel. Appreciate it. Holly was obviously here with us. Zodiac Case Royalty. Joey always comes through. Fire Pixie, thanks for the help with the links. I'm spent. I don't think I have much channel news outro. I think next week we're doing Joker, Folly Ado, double header. Hopefully have Holly back for part 2, and definitely cover LB and PH with her. Do a LB super show and a Presidio Heights deep dive. Like, sub, share. Click the join the membership below to get a membership, become a member, or check out my Patreon where I do the Most Dangerous Game adaptations analysis. Hey, I might have something along this lines. It won't be the Z Hood, but it'll be a Z Hood. Hopefully that'll be good enough for you guys. But that's it for me. Like, sub, share. Zodiac Files Volume 14 coming back with 15 next week. And like I said, 3 more shows for Zodtober. We'll see what November holds. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Great show.